welcome to Buzzy Concepts. This is our third episode back.
Yeah.
A bit of delay with this one for other reasons, but we have with us today, as usual, Steve Brockhausen's here.
Yeah.
And we have our producer man.
Yeah, he's joining us for this one, and he'll probably
He's the man who does all the work, really, doesn't he?
He really does.
I mean, like, to go through everything and edit it. So fair play. Phil Connolly, he's joining us.
Because you can imagine stuff we leave in, what's being cut out.
I know, well, exactly. And I have to say thanks to Philly, he kind of saved my ass on the last episode by cutting out certain things that I said in jest that wouldn't have gone down well. But welcome, Phil. You have a podcast yourself, don't you?
Yeah, we're doing kind of Wrestle Slam with Jerry and a few other lads where we just talk about whatever's going on in the week.
Oh yeah. So Phil, I have to ask you now, just because I was looking at it there now. Apparently AEW are going to be presenting some brand new wrestler tonight.
Yes.
Who's a Hall of Fame worthy person.
It's a Hall of Fame worthy talent, and it's also a huge shock apparently.
A huge shock. Barry Horowitz.
I put that up on Twitter the other day. No, but people think it's Brock Lesnar, but I don't think it is.
So who do you think it is?
Christian.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would be disappointed if it was him.
I know.
After all the build-up.
But this is their chance now to create a Lex Luger moment.
A Lex Luger moment. What's the Lex Luger moment?
He appeared on Nitro in 1995.
Oh, yeah.
So if John Cena appears or someone like that appears, then Vince McMahon is going to be shitting himself, basically.
Right.
Like John Cena doesn't have a contract, so it could be John Cena.
So you have John Cena, Brock Lesnar doesn't have a contract.
Big Show signed with him.
Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, is he doing anything?
Who knows? Dave Jacobs Snake already.
Yeah. Hall of Fame caliber talent. That'll be a surprise.
Or Coco Beware.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I think Frankie's
so that's tonight we find out, Phil, is it?
Tonight we find out, and also because we're going to be talking about bad wrestling matches and stuff in a while, so there's one tonight with a barbed wire explosion match.
Oh, great. Because that's what always happens to barbed wire, it explodes.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. The first match of its kind in nearly 30 years.
Since probably Mick Foley versus
Terry Funk,
Terry Funk or something. Maybe it's Mick Foley coming out in AEW tonight.
And Terry Funk.
Yeah.
Both coming back out of retirement.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually heard that he's actually not well, Terry.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't been well for about 40 odd years.
He was retiring in 1998 at some stage.
But
yeah. Like, how old is that one? That documentary?
Beyond the Mat, around 98, 99, I think.
Yeah, 20 years at least.
Yeah, and he was, like I said, he was retiring then. He had his last ever match in that.
I know. Will we move on to the news?
Yeah.
We may as well.
So I have a few, it's very animal-based news this week, I think.
That's good. We like animals.
That's all right, but I'm going to start out by speaking some German, which is always a good fun.
Yeah.
So the COVID-19 pandemic has inspired a linguistic shift across the globe, introducing many phrases to the English lexicon, from social distancing to super spreader event. In German, however, the number of new words inspired by the pandemic exceeds 1,200, according to a list compiled by the Leibniz Institute for the German Language. This is a dramatic increase from the normal 200 or so words that annually enter the German language, according to the Institute. The lengthy list, assembled via careful monitoring of new terms as they appear in articles, is due to Germans' tendency to combine words together. For instance, corona mutationsgebiet, which is a mashup of the words for corona mutation and area, and refers to a place where coronavirus variants are quickly spreading.
Yeah.
Well, other intriguing combinations include the uniquely German Corona Fußgruß, which translates to Corona foot greeting, and describes the alternative to handshakes that many were forced to adopt during the early stage of the pandemic. Gesichtskondom, or face condom, is one of the several new words for masks. While this one now I think I could have used yesterday, which was Maschentrottel, refers to a mask idiot or someone who fails to wear a mask properly. Or Abstandsbier, which directly translates to distance beer, which is a common way of safely socializing these days. Christine Meurs, who worked on the Leibniz list, said that when viewed together, these words reflected the history of the pandemic. Things that do not have a name can cause people to fear and insecurity, she said. However, if we talk about things and name them, then we can communicate with each other, especially in times of crisis, and this is important. So there you go. So there's a couple there now for you to learn, lads. Mashkin Trottle.
Mashkin Trottle, yeah. That sounds like a bad wrestler.
It does. Mask idiot.
I'm not going to put my name into that wrestling website anymore. I got it bad.
You were Nigerian man-child at one stage.
It was at one point, yeah.
It's a good one. A good one. But yeah, Germany needs more words. The German language doesn't have enough words.
They don't have enough words. And it's a beautiful language, really, isn't it?
Yeah, gorgeous.
It really rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
We'll go on to the next story. An Alaska woman had the scare of a lifetime when using an outhouse in the backcountry as she was attacked by a bear from below. I got out there and sat down in the toilet, and immediately something bit my butt right as I sat down, Shannon Stevens told the Associated Press. I jumped up and screamed when it happened. Stevens, her brother Eric, and his girlfriend had taken snowmobiles into the wilderness on February the 13th to stay at his yurt, located about 20 miles northwest of Haines in southeast Alaska. Her brother heard the screaming and went to the outhouse about 150 feet away, and there he found Shannon tending to her wound. They at first thought she'd been bitten by a squirrel or a mink or something like that. But then Eric brought his headlamp with him to see what it was. He opened the toilet seat, and there was just a bear face right there at the level of the toilet seat, just looking right back up through the hole right at me, he said. I just shut the lid as fast as I could. There's a bear down there. We've got to get out of here now, he said, and we ran back to the yurt as fast as we could. Once safely back inside, they treated Shannon with a first aid kit. They determined it wasn't that serious, but they would head back to Haines if it worsened. Shannon said it was bleeding, but it wasn't super bad. The next morning, they found bear tracks all over the property, but the bear had left the area. You could see them all across the snow coming up to the side of the outhouse, she said. They figured the bear got inside the outhouse through an opening at the bottom of the back door. I expect it's probably not that bad of a little den in the winter, Shannon said. So there you go. Be careful when you're going on outhouse trips.
In Alaska, yeah. Bears are kind of scary. I've had a couple of run-ins with bears. Well, not run-ins with them, but I've come across them in the wild a couple of times.
Have you?
They are big animals. Yeah, in different campsites. They're not so dangerous, the ones you see around the campsites, because they kind of come there to get food. But I was staying at a campsite once, and a few campsites down, there was a family who just left their food out, which you never do. And there was a nice family of bears there in the morning eating all their food. But those bears tend to be used to people. They know they get food around them, so they're not afraid of people. Those are the ones that you don't worry about. And I've had bears when I was living in the woods, destroying my bird feeders and things. And also, friends of mine used to talk when you were on about Alaska, when they used to go fishing in Alaska, and they said it's kind of terrifying because they're salmon fishing and they're at the edge of the water and the woods are behind them. And any time they hear a noise in the woods, they're just automatically assume it's a grizzly bear.
Yeah. Grizzly bear or some kind of pervert.
Yeah, it's usually the latter of the two.
Or a pervert grizzly bear.
That's true.
That's probably what that bear was inside the toilet.
Exactly.
We'll move on to the next story. This one is an interesting one, and it's maybe that, in the future it can become something quite big. But we'll start. Pigs are highly intelligent creatures, and a study released on Thursday has revealed that they're skilled gamers as well. Published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology, the paper is a culmination of extensive research into pig intelligence that began in the 90s by scientists working with Stanley Curtis, a legendary swine researcher who died in 2010. It was co-authored by Candace Croney, director of Purdue University Center for Animal Welfare Science, and Sarah Boyson, a professor of psychology at Ohio State University, renowned for her research into chimpanzees. The paper highlights 2 Yorkshire pigs named Hamlet and Omelette, and 2 Panepinto micropigs, often used in research and usually weighing 50 to 70 pounds, named Ebony and Ivory, all of whom were kept at Pennsylvania State University. I'm just going to stop there for 1 second. How insulting are those names for the 2 Yorkshire pigs? Hamlet and Omelette.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically like, this is what your future is going to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, pigs were trained at a rudimentary joystick-operated video game task that had originally been created to test chimpanzees and rhesus monkeys. They learned how to manipulate a joystick with their snouts to move a computer cursor across a screen. Once they maneuvered the cursor to hit a wall, a treat dispenser connected to the joystick would deliver a snack. The game had varying difficulty levels, and the number of walls that appeared on screen decreased from 4 to 1. The pigs, all of whom were farsighted, eventually excelled at the game, though their performance varied at higher difficulty levels. Apparently, Ivory hit the one-wall target an impressive 76% of the time. Hamlet and Omelette were forced to retire after 12 weeks of training because they had grown too large to stand long enough to complete sessions. So it sounds like they got very, very good at the game.
Yeah.
That the pigs achieved the level of success that they did on a task that was significantly outside their normal frame of reference is in itself remarkable and indicative of their behavioural and cognitive flexibility, the study states, pointing out that even when the joystick broke, the hogs continued to make correct responses when rewarded only with verbal and tactile reinforcement from the experimenter, who was also their primary caretaker. So there you go. So it won't be long now before the pigs are on Fortnite and the like.
Yeah, exactly.
Call
It
of
makes
Duty.
bacon slightly less delicious, doesn't it? And the pigs are that intelligent.
I know it really hurts me because, you know, I mean, like bacon, sausages, they're all delicious.
Yeah, but then you see them
then we find out like that these pigs have wonderful intelligence, and apparently, you know, they're very emotionally intelligent as well.
Yeah,
and
so
I think we only eat them because they can't look up.
Yeah, looks sad.
There's just something about them not being able to look up. We look down on them
and not seeing their faces.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
That's it. Roles reversed. They'd eat us in a heartbeat.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You know, it's dog eat dog out there, or pig eat human as such.
Yeah, exactly.
So there we go. In the future, you could be playing Call of Duty or something like that, and Hamlet or Omelette could be there, and they could be knifing you. The ultimate insult.
That's it. A short step from there to pigs operating drones for the U.S. Army.
Well, that's definitely going to happen. Didn't they already have dolphins trained up at one stage
to attack German U-boats or Russian submarines or something? Yeah.
So I mean, it won't be long before pigs are definitely going to be piloting drones or something like that. We move on to our last story, which is, of course, the staple of any weird news that's involving a man from Florida.
Yeah.
A Florida man stole an engagement ring and wedding bands from a girlfriend and used them to propose to another girlfriend, according to authorities. Volusia County Sheriff's deputy said Thursday that they have issued an arrest warrant for Joseph Davis, 48, who had not been found as of last Friday. The investigation started earlier this year when a woman from Orange City, Florida, told detectives she had discovered her boyfriend was actually engaged to someone else. When she looked up the fiancé's Facebook page, she noticed a photo of her wearing a wedding band and engagement ring that was identical to her own from a prior marriage, the sheriff's office said in a news release. When the Orange City woman checked her jewelry box, she found her rings were missing, as were several other pieces of jewelry, including a diamond ring that belonged to her grandmother. The total value of the stolen property was around $6,270.
Yikes.
The Orange City woman reached out to the fiancé, who returned some of the items, and they both called it off with Davis, who also went by the names Joe Brown and Marcus Brown. The fiancé, who lives in Orlando, told detectives she had been duped too. Davis once took the fiancé to a house that actually belonged to the Orange City woman while she was at work and claimed it was his. He then asked the fiancé to move in with him, but he then disappeared. By that time, the fiancé discovered her laptop, computer, and jewelry were missing. Even though they did not have his real name, the jilted women remembered he had a relative in North Carolina, and detectives were able to track down the relative, who identified Davis. So there you go.
Yeah, interesting one. And I must say, the horoscope's coming up later. He could well be a Pisces, because it's not too dissimilar to
not too different from there.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that could be that was like from last week, so you don't know.
You don't know. Yeah.
I don't know when you got that those horoscopes through from Derek
that's a while back. So it could be.
So there we go. But that's quite cheeky, really.
Yeah, it is.
Not only steal the jewelry from his girlfriend to propose to his other girlfriend, but to also bring that other girlfriend back to his girlfriend's house and to ask him to move in, or to ask her to move in.
Just too much effort.
God grant me the confidence of someone like that. But it does stink of too much effort.
Yeah. That's way too much effort for anybody.
But it's never a good sign if your boyfriend has aliases.
No, it should be a red flag.
I know. It should
Aliases
really
and asking, can his other fiance move into the house with you?
Well, that sounds like the start of a sitcom to me.
Yeah.
But I read there was some news.
A guy, and a girl, and an alias.
What's that, Phil?
A guy, a girl, and an alias.
A guy, a girl, and an alias. There we go. I think we'd have to pay off Jennifer Garner.
Yeah.
Or unless she wanted to be in it, she could be one of the girlfriends.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
That could work. If you have any news you wish to send in to us, you can get on to us, Buzzy Concepts, on Facebook. Are we on Twitter, Steve?
Not yet, but we will be soon, I'm sure.
We were at some stage years ago.
We're on Twitter, but we're locked out.
I vaguely remember you tweeting various celebrities at one stage.
Yeah, I think we're locked out of the account and can't remember the passwords or the emails to get the passwords back, so we might have to start afresh.
That's what happens.
That's what happens. But we can start afresh. We'll give it a whirl.
I also saw an interesting anniversary, Steve, on Facebook today. Apparently, it's 8 years since we went to the French Film Festival to watch La Jetée.
Oh, wonderful stuff.
Which was a kind of a launch where somehow I think we were in town, Steve, and we were on the bus coming home, and we were saying, "Oh, yeah, we'll go to that La Jetée launch." Yeah. And somehow I managed to talk you into wearing a full tuxedo.
Yeah, there's a twist to that story.
But actually, I mean, like you looked very, very smart. So people were actually they probably thought you were part of the festival.
Yeah. And that's when we met the Woody Allen lookalike, who was an accordion player.
The French accordion player who looked exactly like Woody Allen. He must have been some sort of bastard child.
Definitely.
He had to be. The only other thing I really remember from that night was the free drink.
Free Murphy's, wasn't it? And free wine. And that crowd weren't really going for the wine.
No. It was massive queues for the Murphys, I seem to remember.
Yeah.
And I remember we were sending up various other people
to get them.
I think, I know, did we meet Neve O'Flynn or someone like that? She doesn't drink, but we set her up for more.
And Emmett.
And Emmett as well. We sent him up to get more for us. And we ended up in the Brogue with you in your tuxedo.
Yeah.
As well.
Good times.
Good night.
Yeah, 8 years ago. That's mad.
Yeah. So 2013 apparently.
Yeah. There was also the thing that you showed us yesterday was another story that seems like a sad story, but had a mad ending where there was going around Facebook, because people probably often see that so-and-so is missing. Can you please share this? My brother's hasn't been seen and whatever. Go on, you may as well finish it off.
So there was a guy missing in Cork, and obviously the call went out and it was on all over the media and all over Facebook. But the Facebook post, I know, was it from the Evening Echo or something like that? Or the guy who was missing commented underneath saying, "I'm not missing at all. I'm just on a mad one. Yeah. I won't be back till next week. I'm out with the lads."
Yeah, so there you go.
So, it's a happy ending.
A happy ending, yeah.
A happy ending. And I just have one last bit, just in remembrance of my cousin's dog.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Was the name of the dog. Yeah. And he was a small little, I don't know what he was. He was kind of he was definitely part Jack Russell, part Corgi or something like that.
Some sort of a terrier.
He definitely passes a Corgi if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But he was an incredibly smart dog.
Yeah.
Back in the day, now this was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I was in college and I was living with my grandparents at the time. And Bob Marley, the dog, would know the right time to come to my grandparents' house when everybody was there for their lunch.
Oh.
So all my uncles would be there for their lunch and my cousin would be there as well. And Bob Marley would know the exact right time to turn up. So he'd walk over from Toker to Ballyfiharn. A good 15-minute walk. He'd just do it himself. And it was every day. It was every day the same time. And my grandmother would make him ham sandwiches.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he call it over?
Butter the bread.
Yeah, well,
like proper ham sandwiches, and he'd love it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't he come over every day?
Exactly. So I just say he was a great character, and apparently, he was a bit of a Lothario. So there's probably 200 or 300 puppies around the place.
Yeah,
that
well,
are
there
definitely
you
belonging
go.
to him, I'd say.
Well, most dogs in Ballyphehane, probably some related to him somewhere along the line.
Exactly. So there we go in remembrance of Bob Marley, who lived to the great age of 18.
Very, very good age for a dog.
Very good age.
Yes.
Yeah, good stuff. Poor old Bob. There is a match in a minute when we go to these worst wrestling match ideas of all time that involves dogs.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So I don't know. Will I go through some of these before we
You
have a
might as well
chat?
start with it, I suppose, because since we're talking about dogs.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Work away,
start.
Steve.
So I'll start with that one then. Just some of these are just ridiculous. Actually, I'll come to it in a minute. I might as well go in order or I'll get all confused.
Yeah.
But these are some wrestling matches that have taken place that are the worst ideas probably of all time. So you have the King of the Road match that people might remember, WCW, Dustin Rhodes against Blacktop Bully, was it? An 18-wheeler truck still in motion. The wrestler struggled in the confined space, not to mention a moving truck. Well, the crack video experts, I don't know, like I said, they might have assembled it together on a fridge or something, but it seems to jump between different times of the day as they go back to it. And not only that, in an attempt to make the match more interesting, both wrestlers bladed during the match, which CW had a policy against, and they were fired immediately after the match.
So blading was when they make themselves bleed, Phil, isn't it?
Yeah.
On
so
purpose.
this Blacktop Billy guy was actually smashed from the demolition.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Right.
And Dustin Rhodes' course is Gold Dust.
Yeah.
These matches are all probably online on YouTube somewhere.
You can see bits of them anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, our listeners can't be affording that. That's why they're listening to us. If they could afford proper entertainment, they wouldn't be listening to us.
I'm sure.
But really, wasn't the King of the Road match really a precursor to some of these matches that have been happening in lockdown?
Yeah.
You know, like these cinematic matches. It was just, not cinematic. It was just, on the back of a truck driving around the place.
With a helicopter, like filming it. You couldn't even see them. You could barely see them.
Yeah, well, there's a few matches where you can barely see people. So I'll talk about some other. Another one I have here was the Punjabi prison match, which was designed for one of the worst wrestlers probably of all time, the Great Khali. But then he had to withdraw because of illness. So you had the Undertaker and the Big Show in it, which made no sense at all for the two of them to be fighting.
So why was it a Punjabi match then?
So the match, you have two bamboo cages with a door on each side. So each cage has two doors.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the first one is like the regular cage that goes just around the ring, and the other one is like the Hell in the Cell that goes around ringside.
Yeah.
So the inner cage, neither cage has a top on it, and the way it works is you can request a door to be opened, and obviously you have to get out of both cages to win. Request the door to be opened, but you have 60 seconds to get out, and if you don't, they padlock it shut. And then if the two doors are like padlock shut, you then have to climb up over the bamboo cage to get out, and that's the only way to do it. It was just
that just sounds complicated.
Yeah, it was.
I think there was like 4 of them in total.
That was the worst thing about it, is they did more than one after the first one was ridiculous.
If I thought, no, it's a good idea. We just have to finesse it a little bit by doing exactly the same thing.
The thing is, it was designed for the Great Khali, and then he was pulled out of the match for some reason.
Say there, yeah, he said he was sick.
I think he was just shockingly bad that they couldn't put him out there.
That too.
Was there ever any evidence that it was actually from Punjabi Wrestling Federation?
Yeah, I mean, they must have had somebody around they could have just thrown in there.
The Big Show.
We know what they'd have done in the 80s, but they can't do that anymore.
No.
The Junkyard Invitational was another WCW masterpiece where wrestlers too numerous to even remember, there were so many of them there, fought hardcore style in an actual junkyard of scrapped cars, twisted metal. A load of wrestlers got injured, obviously, because it was dangerous to be wrestling in a junkyard. And it was eventually won by Fit Finlay, who won by leaving the junkyard. A piece of information they failed to mention before the match is how did the wrestlers actually win?
So they could have just walked in.
Fit Finlay left, they were like, oh, Fit Finlay wins, he left.
I don't understand though.
No, go on. You're all right.
No, go on, Phil.
No, I was just going to see it. He used this weird helicopter shot that you couldn't see any of the wrestlers.
Just the junkyard.
It's a junkyard.
Little dots fighting.
But the lads are killing each other, like, and beating each other off glass and broken cars.
My problem with it though is like having a hardcore match that's invitational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're only like
a
a hardcore match, you just turn up.
Yeah. Invite only.
Oh, horrible.
Load of bouncers on the gate of the the gate of the junkyard.
Yeah. This one then is another WCW match. It was called the San Francisco 49ers match, even though it had absolutely nothing to do with the 49ers at all. And it was basically, he said, like, WCW has had great matches, like we talked about a few of them. They've got like record contracts on poles, pinatas, Buff Bagwell's mother at one stage, Viagra, and a DNA testing kit. But in this one, they took it to. They had four poles, one in each corner. One of them, because this was a world title match as well, had the title belt inside it, and the others had like gag prizes. So the gag items in the other boxes were a blow-up doll, a coal miner's glove, they called it, but it was just a glove, and a picture of Scott Hall. And not only was the match absolutely ridiculous, the boxes were built so poorly, before they even got to the championship belt one, it fell out of the box outside and just landed ringside.
That's just the classic, just like, just yeah, that box will be fine. I just feel sorry for the coal miner.
Yeah, he's only
got one glove.
Oh.
What did you think of that one, Phil, the first time you watched that match?
I actually haven't seen it in years. But yeah, it was meant.
Can you remember who won it by chance?
Booker T, I think. But WCW was such a mess at that point.
Yeah, it was anything goes at that point, and that was ridiculous.
Like they had David Arquette do run-ins. I'm surprised he probably didn't even come out in that match.
Two-time world champion David Arquette. Don't be bad. Phil is actually in the David Arquette documentary.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw that you were queuing up to meet David Arquette.
We were, yeah.
Yeah, he was over at. Phil was invited over with Jerry, who we might have on another show in a few weeks' time. Over to WrestleMania to cover WrestleMania, and they were at one of those events, and he was going to meet him, and you got into the movie.
Yeah, so there you go. You're a close personal friend of David Arquette.
No, WCW were trying everything. I'm surprised there wasn't spiders inside some of those boxes.
Booker T's afraid of spiders, isn't he? Oh no, that's the other fella.
That's R-Truth.
That's R-Truth. Is famously afraid of spiders. King of the Mountain match was another idea they decided they have, which is basically a reverse ladder match.
It's a reverse ladder match, but it's also a penalty box match as well.
So you have to.
I don't understand these words.
So if you get pinned, you have to go to the penalty box.
Yeah. In the ladder match, the ladder match where the belt hangs over the ring and you have to get it. Same concept, except there's a hook hanging over the ring and you have to attach something to it.
That just sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you get pinned, you have to go into the penalty box for 3 minutes.
Oh Jesus. The next one up here now is the blindfold match. I watched this actually last week. This was actually at a WrestleMania. I can't remember which one I was watching.
I remember this one.
WrestleMania.
Where on the Brother Love show, Rick Martel blinded Jake the Snake Roberts. And he recovered over the next few weeks or whatever, but they had a match where they were both wearing hoods basically that they couldn't see out of, and it was the most ridiculous match ever.
Well, they definitely could see out of the hoods anyway, for one.
Yeah.
You could clearly see that.
Yeah, but they were just wildly like swiping for each other and trying to grab each other, and it was just comical, really. Not the greatest one ever. This one then is the dog one, the Kennel from Hell, it was called. This one started as a crazy storyline where the big boss man killed Al Snow's dog, who I think was called Pepper, and then ate him. So he killed and ate Al Snow's dog. Yeah. So for revenge, they had the Kennel from Hell match, which was a cage surrounded by the Hell in a Cell, and outside the cage and in the cell were rabid dogs, vicious rabid.
The only thing is they weren't rabid dogs; they were like trainee dogs.
Yeah. So you had to get out of the cage, and then you had to get through the ravenous dogs that were going to kill you and get out of the cell. Yeah, the dogs were kind of about as vicious as baby chickens, and they were more interested in like pooping and going to the bathroom and just messing around with each other than they were about either of the wrestlers. Al
You
Snow
should
won the match.
never get animals involved in wrestling because you can't control them.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. Al Snow, though, eventually won the match, but in reality, everybody who was watching
Everybody
it was
lost.
the loser that night.
Yeah.
Wasn't the Big Boss Man? Didn't he do some sort of storyline with the Big Show?
Yeah, a very,
Where
very,
he
very
he
bad
gate
one.
crashed his father's funeral.
Yeah.
And drove off with the coffin.
Yeah. And then he jumped on the back of the coffin as he was being pulled off.
All right, I've got two more of these, so guys, of mad matches. The Reverse Royal Rumble. This is another mad idea that I think they've done two of these. Have they, Phil?
They have, I think, yeah. But this again is from the mind of Vince Russo.
Basically, everyone knows the Royal Rumble, and did no one had a controversial take on the Royal Rumble that we can come to in a minute. But basically, what this match is all the wrestlers start outside the ring.
Okay.
Fight each other to get into the ring.
Right.
When half of the wrestlers are in the ring, the other half are eliminated. They then have a battle royal.
Yeah.
Where it's basically like a Royal Rumble, except everyone's in the ring all at once until there's two wrestlers left, and then they have a singles match to determine the winner.
Jesus.
If you've got to fill an hour, it's a good way to do it on a show.
I just have a headache listening to that.
Yeah. It's as bad as, I suppose, I have one there. I have one that I can show actually that is just because we're talking about Reverse Royal Rumble's World War III match.
Yeah.
Where you had 60 men, 3 rings.
Oh, yeah.
And you had 6 commentators. So you had 2 commentators for each ring.
Yeah.
And it was split screen. So you couldn't hear anything, or you didn't know what was going on.
That probably would have been better in times where you had the red button and you could skip between the two. But isn't it after they get down to 10 people in one ring, then they all just stop fighting?
Yeah.
They stop wrestling and all calmly go into the other ring.
Yeah, they're well-behaved wrestlers. The last match that I found, and this was on the greatest wrestling show of all, which was Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. And this match is on YouTube if you want to watch it, I think. It's the Anus Exploding Death Match. It's simple enough. To win the match, you have to shove a firecracker up your opponent's backside and light it on fire.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound fully legal.
That's it.
Like the guy that won, I think he ties his opponent to the corner of the ring, and he does do it. And the match is on YouTube. So,
is there really any winner in a match like that?
No, nobody.
The loser gets a firecracker up his arse, and the winner gets a sexual assault conviction.
There's a few other matches that I didn't go into detail with, but they're mad ones. The bungee cord match, the monster truck match. There was a shark cage match, the dungeon match, which was in the Heart Dungeon. There was a dog poo match, I think, that The Rock was involved in. A Gulf of Mexico match where to win, even though you started in the arena, to win the match you had to throw your opponent into the Gulf of Mexico.
Does it have to be the Gulf of Mexico?
It had to be the Gulf of Mexico. And then there was also a Custody of Dominic match as well, which I know is one of Phil's favourites.
Oh, yeah. This whole thing with I'm Your Papi with Eddie Guerrero.
So whoever won that match had custody of the kid.
Yeah.
And was that court ordered?
There was a ladder match for the contract was above the ring.
Oh, so the custody notice. But then, was there no name on the custody notice? Like, who put the name in afterwards? Once you got up there? That's you might as well just have a lawyer and a pole match.
Yeah.
There you go. There's also that WCW in 1990, I think it was, where RoboCop returned to save Sting.
RoboCop.
Yeah.
Wasn't that just a big promo for RoboCop 2, which was kind of coming out at the time?
Yeah.
RoboCop was in the building, but he didn't show up at all. And suddenly, didn't he come in and bend bars or something to free Sting, and all the bad guys were afraid of him then?
Yeah.
I seem to remember in WCW they had a Yeti.
Yeah.
But he was actually a mummy.
Yeah. And he also kind of bum hugged Hogan, which is really weird.
Oh, that was his finisher, was just he'd hug 2 fellas.
Yeah. This was on the same show as the infamous monster truck fight.
Oh,
did you enjoy that match?
Hulk Hogan versus the Giant.
Yeah. it ended up with Hogan pushing Giant off the roof for some reason.
In a monster truck.
In a monster truck. And apparently the commentators tried to fawn it off that he was alive by saying he fell into water.
From like a 20, and it was like on top of a 20-story building, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then 20 minutes later, Giant comes out to the ring, bone dry.
To have a proper match.
To have a proper match with Hogan.
The bungee cord match there's another one where you can't see nothing going on because the commentators are on the ground and the lads are hundreds of feet in the air and they have nothing to film them, so you just see the odd foot and hand coming out every now and then while the lads are trying to commentate on it, and it was in the dark.
Have you ever seen any mad matches live in person? Have like the Irish Federation's ever had any crazy matches?
No, I haven't seen any.
I seem to remember that in our local sports hall they had their version of the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah.
Which you probably shouldn't talk about because they probably didn't have copyright permission to use it. The Royal Rumble idea.
All these shows are on YouTube if people really want to look at them.
We'll call it a Royal Rumble, but they definitely, for copyright reasons, called it something else.
It was the Celtic Rumble, they called it.
The Celtic Rumble. There's also, did you ever remember the scaffold match with Jim Cornette?
Yeah, they had a few scaffold matches, didn't they?
Cornette fell from 75 feet or something and broke his 2 legs.
Really? Or was there just an
inflatable? Legit, he went up and he was hanging and he fell straight down.
Oh dear.
This was like 1988, I think.
Yeah. Do you remember the dungeon match? Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart?
Yeah.
Inside in the Hart dungeon with some guy as a referee.
Yeah.
That was basically exactly like Fritzl's basement.
Yeah.
It looked exactly like it.
Yeah. They were trying everything back in that era. They were trying everything.
But that was the fun of it all, wasn't it?
Yeah. It really was.
Anybody have any ideas for matches?
Any more, Steve?
Oh, I have a few. Like, as Phil knows, it's my dream to write some of these matches for wrestlers.
Yeah.
One of my ideas is it's a pole match, which WCW would love, but they're not around anymore, sadly. It's antidote on a pole match, where both wrestlers are bitten by a venomous snake before the match, and the anti-venom is hanging from a pole.
But how about this, Steve? How about we update it? Both men are infected with COVID for the match, and the vaccine is on a pole.
There you go. And the thing is, they get weaker and weaker as the matches go on.
So that makes it harder.
Makes it much harder when they're near death. And, there's always will either of them even get it before they both die? And who knows? So I had that match. Have you any, Phil, that you thought would be?
I don't really have matches, but I have moments. All right. The Katie Vick stuff. Do you remember that?
No, what was that?
Where Triple H started throwing noodles into a coffin and started saying, "Screw me, screw me."
That just sounds weird.
Do you remember it, no?
I really don't. It's
basically what happened was Kane and Triple H were feuding, and Kane came out and said that he killed someone.
Okay.
And then they did this thing with Triple H where he goes into the coffin and starts throwing noodles into the coffin. But he's wearing Kane's mask, which was even weirder about the whole thing.
This just sounds like some sort of weird dream.
Yeah. But they did this at a real funeral home because Bruce Pritchard talks about it on his podcast.
All right.
Do you have any, Adam, that you could think of that would be quality matches?
A scuba match.
Yeah, there you go.
So they both have to... so the referee has to wear one of those old school diving suits because he has to stay down there longer.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a best of 3 falls match on the edge of a river. And so, you win the first fall by throwing a fella into the river. But then for the next fall, you have to jump into the river after him and wrestle him under the water.
It sounds like a winner. And it's classic for these bad matches where you won't see anything that's actually happening.
That's exactly it. Like, I mean, rely on the cameramen. They'll find it hard.
Yeah. And that's what you want, like the bungee match where it's pitch black and all you see is the odd arm and leg until one of them comes flying out of it. while the commentators are doing their best to talk about what's happening when they clearly can't see.
Exactly.
And that would be perfect for that, all right?
Yeah.
I had another idea for a golf match
Yes.
where you had to fight the other wrestler, and whoever won the first match gets to tee off. And then they get to the green, and then they have to have another match. And from there, then it goes on for full 18 holes.
Yeah. Shorter than the reverse rumble by the sounds of it.
Probably. They had a supermarket match at one stage, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah. They wrecked the place too, didn't they?
Yeah.
You see, they could have had a crossover with Supermarket Sweep.
Yeah. And didn't Roddy Piper and someone have another match outside where they
Goldust.
Roddy Piper and Goldust had a backlot brawl.
Yeah, and wasn't he like on the front of a car or something, or being dragged along by a car?
O.J. Simpson's footage.
They used the footage of O.J. Simpson's chase.
Exactly.
And I seem to remember at the end, I don't know, was it this match or the other one, that Roddy Piper tore off Goldust's suit to reveal Goldust wearing stockings and suspenders.
Yeah.
I was about 11 watching this, like.
Wasn't there something in this match too where the backyard bit was filmed before the event?
Yeah.
And then they were going to arrive at the arena, and Roddy Piper had injured himself between it. So they had to like make something up about him being hurt or something.
He had to go get his arm fixed up or something.
Or he didn't until after the match or something like that he'd broken his arm, but for continuity they couldn't allow him to put it in a cast until after the match. Or something along them lines.
Oh my God.
What about Vince McMahon, Phil? That's another of your favorites, isn't it? Vince, when his limo exploded.
Yeah, that was the whole thing with Benoit.
And for some reason, all the wrestlers were lined up as he was leaving.
Like, it actually had Donald Trump actually tweeted, didn't he, to say it was the R8 or something afterwards.
Another big wrestling
Donald Trump, historically, is a big enemy of Vince McMahon. Didn't they fight at WrestleMania?
They did, in a hair match.
A hair match. So is he the only former president to have wrestled a match?
I'd say so.
I don't know about William Taft. He sounds like a fellow who would have been wrestling at one stage.
Unless The Rock becomes president, well, you never know.
Could
be.
Who would be the best wrestling president?
Jesse Ventura.
He's good, all right.
Yeah.
But he's actually properly a politician now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he wants to run for the Libertarian Party, I think, if he was going to run for president. So he wouldn't have a hope, really.
But also, like, he's not even like, as far as I know, Jesse Ventura, he's like a libertarian, but he's like anti the Trump supporting libertarians.
Oh yeah, he's very much
more right-wing libertarians. He's not really in favor of them.
No, he's very much he's not a politician, basically. He's no party as such. But he probably needs somebody to run with, and he wouldn't run with either of the big parties. But he's, I think he was one of the first independents to win a governorship in I don't know how long.
In Montana. Was it Montana?
Where was it, Phil? It was one of the M's. Michigan? Not Michigan.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Mad.
I'm trying to think about a really, really bad matches I've seen over the years. There was one in TNA which was similar to what you were on about earlier about the boxes.
Yeah.
It was 8 women, and every time they got a pinfall, they got a key for a box, and each box has a different thing inside it. So one of them was like a pink slip. You're fired.
Oh,
this just sounds like Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, basically that's what it was. And then there was another one that said the striptease.
I'm guessing Vince Russo came up with this.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And the other one with the belt, like the last time the women's belt was in one of them, and also there was a tarantula in the last box.
Oh, right.
Tarantula. So they have to keep it and look after it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, becomes your pet forever.
Well, Vince Russo's come up with some shit over the years.
He does. Phil, I've a list here of 20. This is not mine now. This is the Wrestling Observer, who I think they rate all the matches?
Yeah, they do, yeah.
They came up with a list of the 20 worst wrestlers of all time.
Okay.
So I might only go into the top 10 because it's quite controversial, I'd say, for some people anyway.
Okay.
Because I don't want to go through all 20 of them. They have one of Adam's favourite in at number 10 is Goldust.
How is he with the worst?
I don't know.
People loved him.
Warrior? Is it against Warrior?
Yeah, it's not. I guess with these guys, with the Observer, it's not about how much the people love them, but about their wrestling ability.
He was very good at the start, and then he got a bit fat and on the drugs, and he was quite bad after that. But when he started out, he was very good.
Yeah. Like they say here, this is what they say now. He was great in WCW, delivered some fine matches. He did some fine work as tag team and US champion. And he was much better in-ring worker than his father, Dusty. But Meltzer, who writes the Observer, has serious issues with the Goldust gimmick, which, if anything, was ahead of its time and pushing the envelope, they say here. But Meltzer truly hated it and lambasted it. So maybe that's why he's in there, because he just didn't like the gimmick of Goldust.
I read about that years ago. Like when it first started off, they had Goldust masturbating and everything.
Yeah, but it's modern times. Yeah, good old Goldust.
But the thing is about Goldust is that basically he was given this character, which was basically kind of a transvestite character in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean,
he did his best.
To be given that in the 90s in wrestling is basically screw you, you're going to be gone in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And yet he made a career out of it.
Yeah. Number 9, then they have the great Khali, who you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
He was just big.
He had 2 moves.
Just big. Couldn't do much.
No.
Number 8, then they have one of my favourites, Doink the Clown.
That's unfair as well, because it's been about 4 of them.
Yeah.
And the first fellow was a good wrestler.
According to this, the worst feud was 1994 when it was him and Jerry Lawler.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah, did they have midget doinks and midget kings?
Yeah, they had
because they travelled around, I think, for the year or however long up to Survivor Series or whatever.
Yeah. Dink, Wink.
Yeah.
Link.
Yeah.
Zinc.
Yeah.
And Sweet and Sleazy, Wheezy and Peasy or something.
Yeah. That one became that was one of Meltzer rates things out of 5 stars, and he goes to minuses. This was one of that match you're talking about there was one of the few -5 stars he's ever given out.
That was Survivor Series, I think.
And they were saying by 96 he became a joke, and fans used to chant "Kill the Clown."
Yeah. When he
here's
started out first, and he was like an evil clown character, like after Pennywise.
Yeah.
And he was really good.
Yeah.
Kids were scared shitless of him.
Yeah. At number 7, they have Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meltzer didn't like him as a wrestler.
Yeah.
He wasn't good as a wrestler.
No.
He just basically did the same match every time. It's just that people liked that match.
Yeah.
I think Hogan himself, when he talks, he's not shy of saying he wasn't the greatest wrestler.
Yeah.
And he was quite limited in what he could do, but he was just great on the mic. And
the hulking up, people just got behind every single time.
Yeah. He was good at the drama of the match.
Yeah.
Not so much like the actual wrestling. Although there's always talk that he was much better in Japan when he wrestled in Japan.
Yeah. He was voted in this impressive, the readers of the Wrestling Observer, readers' least favorite wrestler 9 times, including an impressive 7 in a row.
Well, that's because those readers were like the nerds.
Yeah, they were the wrestling purists.
Yeah.
And number 6 is going to be another controversial one for you, Phil, is the Ultimate Warrior.
I can see it, but he's same as Hogan. He seemed to have, if you see his matches, he runs to the ring and he's knackered before he even gets in.
It was basically me playing soccer for the last 5 years of my career.
But
they're saying his feud with Andre the Giant in '89 was the worst feud of that year.
Yeah,
well, I think Andre the Giant hated him.
Yeah, I think he did too. I think a lot of people actually didn't like. Apparently, they have very bad attitudes.
And they said his only Meltzer never gave his matches high.
That should be wrong because he has to give Hogan Warrior. Hogan Warrior is a magical match.
When was that?
WrestleMania 6.
Yeah, that's the only one he gave more than 2 stars.
That's the only one. That's the only one.
He gave it 3.5, and he said that was down more to Pat Patterson's booking.
Yeah.
But that was the only time he's given. So good call there, Phil, because it's the only time he's given him more than a 2-star. Yeah. Then number 5, a guy called Loch Ness.
Oh yeah, do you know
who is that Giant Haystacks?
That's Giant Haystacks.
Yeah. In '96, he moved to WCW where he was in Loch Ness.
He could barely move.
Yeah. Well, how old was he then?
In 50, I think, in '96.
He was a member of the Dungeon of Doom.
That's a whole podcast in itself for how ridiculously bad they were.
Yeah. He was voted in their worst ever stable, I think. Then 4 was Andre the Giant.
I can see it, but like
again, he's like, but this is like your man Meltzer, who does the Wrestling Observer. He likes wrestling. He likes wrestling wrestlers, whereas these lads are more kind of all about the event.
In his top 10, I bet you he's 8 Japanese wrestlers.
Yeah, probably. Whereas Andre the Giant, he couldn't wrestle, but he was a big man, he knew how to build the drama of a match.
Like that storyline with Hogan, because I only saw it recently, I had 33 million viewers.
Yeah.
Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, Andre the Giant twice won the magazine's Worst Feud of the Year award.
$1 Million Man.
Big John Studd and the other one against Warrior.
Okay.
As well as winning the Worst Wrestler in 89, 90 and 91.
But he was on his way out at that stage.
Yeah, like and him and Giant Baba were named,
tonight, I think.
Yeah.
And him and Giant Baba were named the worst tag team 2 years in a row.
Wasn't there a story about Andre the Giant that there's some famous person in France or something that used to bring him to school? I'll have to look that up. Yeah. I'm sure it was like a famous philosopher or something like that.
Yeah, you can do that. You find that quickly. Well, I move on to one of Phil's favorite wrestlers of all time, who's number 3 on the list, Dave Sullivan.
Oh,
who's that?
Dave Sullivan. You don't remember Dave Sullivan?
Does he have another name?
Yeah, he started off in the Indies with a variety of gimmicks such as Captain Ron and American Hawkwind. In WCW, he was the Equalizer, the bodyguard to Rick Rude.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, he was terrible.
Just to go back to Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah.
Samuel Beckett used to drive him to school when he was a kid.
What a match.
What a story.
Yeah.
So
they should have brought Beckett more into his storylines.
Well, you could have had a Waiting for Godot match.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's basically the match just goes on forever.
How come the Boogeyman is not on this list?
He is, but he's in the top 20. We're only doing the top 10.
Yeah, he's not good enough to be in the top 10.
Yeah. Number 2, the Renegade, because they say if the Ultimate Warrior was bad, his knockoff has to be worse.
You have to feel sorry for that guy.
The poor guy actually died.
Yeah. WCW couldn't get the real Warrior, so they moved to Rick Wilson, a guy who was given the same hair and makeup and outfits.
Yeah.
It was worse
horrible.
in the ring.
Horrible.
He was bad in the ring, but he had no charisma.
Yeah, I know. I remember it. It was really, really bad.
And it like you said, a sad story because it ultimately he took his own life after not making it there.
Yeah, but half the problem with the Renegade, I think, was they built him up as if it was the Ultimate Warrior coming in.
Yeah. Basically.
And
then this fella, runs out. Yeah. So he was always doomed to fail then.
That's it. And who do you think Meltzer would have as the worst wrestler of all time?
King Kong Bundy.
Oh, it's the Junkyard Dog.
Really?
Junkyard Dog?
Yeah, because he says he was never a good worker. He was rough, got blown up easily. And it says, so Bill Watts had to make sure to put him in squash matches. You're going to have to explain some of these terms here now, Phil. They said he had great charisma and promo work, though, so he was a huge hit with the crowds.
Yeah, I'm assuming he had 1 minute matches that were just nothing. Basically.
Yeah, his match with Moondog Spot was picked as one of the worst of 85. He was the worst wrestler in 87 and 90. And his partnership with George Steele was the worst tag team of 86. And his program with Ric Flair was the worst feud in 90.
Yeah.
But he was, like you said, like a lot of these are more wrestling purists, so he was a big star in his day. But
he was, yeah. He sadly died very young as well.
Yeah. Do you know some of those terms that I just called out? Because I
Squash
don't.
match, 1 minute matches.
Are they? That's
Yeah.
what's a 1 minute match? Sorry?
Squash
A
match.
squash match.
Yeah.
Ah.
Basically a 1 or 2 minute match that he does nothing for no one, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. So
I remember Raw back in '93 was full of them.
You'd have the local lads coming out.
Yeah.
they were always my favourite. The lads were already in the ring waiting.
Ready to go, ready to lose.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's Meltzer's greatest number one? I'm just curious.
His greatest match. That'll take some work on the
Well, not
Google.
great match like the greatest wrestler.
Oh, his greatest wrestler.
Yeah, just because I want to see comparison to the one what he said.
You're asking a lot now.
He'd probably say, would he say some Japanese lad?
He probably.
The Great Anaki or some lad like that.
Most outstanding wrestler. Will Ospreay?
No, that can't be.
No.
That's not on there now. Dave Meltzer.
Dude, here's the card to this thing.
We've seen him live, Steve.
Huh?
We've seen him live.
Yeah?
Will Ospreay.
Plus, he should be the best.
Up at Dublin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ospreay, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't he not the best?
No.
He is a teacher gimmick at the moment.
Is it? Is it good?
No.
This is Wrestling Observer. Oh, these were the most outstanding wrestler awards. So these are for different years.
Yeah.
I'm
curious because
I don't know if they have an overall category.
But if I was to go,
I have wrestlers here with the most 4-star plus match ratings according to Dave Meltzer.
John Cena.
Okay.
So that's probably close enough, I would say, would it?
Yeah.
To the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Number 10, you have Kenta Kobashi.
Yeah.
Right.
You know about him, Phil?
I do. He's very, very hard worker. Like he literally would kill me, I'd say, if I got me into the ring.
Mm-hmm. A touch of what's your man or the mad fella?
He was the guy that actually took the socket out of Daniel Bryan years ago.
Oh.
What was your man that the New Jack, was it? Does he have a touch of New Jacks about him? Or is he not quite that bad?
No, he's more like stiff, like so if he punches you, they're real legit, like.
Oh, right.
Whereas New Jack is just a thug, I think, isn't he?
He'd stab you.
Just a thug, yeah.
Number 9, Micharu Misawa.
So it's all Japanese guys, really.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
Number 8, Yoshiaki Kawada. Number 7, Akira Toei. Number 6, Kurt Angle.
Oh,
well, to be fair, Kurt Angle should be in any top 5.
Yeah, proper wrestler too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Number 5, Chris Benoit.
He is pretty good. Like he was good.
Yeah. Number 4, Jun Akiyama.
Okay.
Number 3, Jushin Liger.
Okay. I actually met him once without his mask and it almost killed me.
Did it?
Really?
Yeah.
Was it like that time you saw the Cork City mascot without his mask?
Yeah, it was.
It killed the
illusion.
It killed the illusion.
And it's like a 58-year-old man.
And he's bald as well.
Oh.
All I remember from Jushin Liger was he used to show I know it was a Japanese wrestling or some sort of European wrestling on Eurosport.
Yeah.
And the odd time you'd see like Jushin Liger. Yeah. You see these fellas that you'd never usually see.
Yeah. He was pretty good, to be fair. Now, was he number 3?
Number 3. Number 2 is quite surprising actually for Meltzer. Yeah. Edge.
That's very surprising.
Yeah. And number 1, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, well, yeah, Shawn is pretty much him. I'm surprised Eddie Guerrero's not on this list.
Or Bret Hart.
Yeah. Or Ric Flair.
Yeah, I used to love Ric Flair. Anyway, so there you go. That answered your question anyway.
Yeah.
There you go, Phil. There you go. Will I move on there to my horoscopes before we wrap up the show and talk a little bit wrestling before we end?
Yeah.
What are you, out of curiosity, Phil?
Pisces.
Oh, you're at the end.
Yeah.
You're at the end. Okay, so we start with Aries. You'll have a spring in your step and a sparkle in your eye this week. It's one of the more unusual torture techniques, but effective as you give up everything.
Oh.
Ever done that? Use springs in wrestling, I wonder? Taurus, there's nothing standing in the way of you becoming rich and famous, making your failure all the more disappointing. Gemini, change is right around the corner for you, but the amount is still not enough to be able to afford the bus.
No.
Cancer, a disastrous sarcasm accident as everyone in the local shop look at you in disgust later this week. Leo, all your hard work finally pays off this week for someone else, unfortunately.
That's just work life in general.
Virgo, remember when your mum said all those sweets will rot your teeth? Well, you get the final laugh, as it's not the sweets, but your new met habit that causes the teeth to rot. Libra, the current lockdown measures seem far less restrictive to you soon after a series of unfortunate events sees you trapped in your bathroom for the next fortnight. Good bit of perspective, never hurt anyone. Scorpio, some good news finally as those annoying neighbours finally move away and you love your new neighbours. Assuming that is you love people who practice their bagpipes into the small hours of the morning. Sagittarius, you get a scare when you think you get COVID next week, but it turns out just a horrific double leg break. As the doctor points out when he says your shin bone sticking out is not a symptom of COVID. Capricorn, the new aligning of the planets this week inspires you to do something you said you would never do and finally pay off that credit card debt.
That's never going to happen. And I'm Capricorn. That's never going to happen.
Aquarius, your skills and thinking on your feet are put to the test this week when your friend uses you as their alibi for a crime they most definitely committed. And finally, Pisces. And remember back to your story now.
I know, yeah.
Remember when your friend said dating two people at the same time would blow up spectacularly in your face? Even they are surprised by just how spectacular it is.
That guy must have been Pisces then.
There you go.
Oh.
So have you any other early memories of wrestling? What was your earliest memory of wrestling, Phil?
Well, WrestleMania 9, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say same as you, Phil. I think that was like the first pay-per-view that my dad taped for me overnight.
Yeah.
Off Sky Sports, off the multi-channel.
Yeah. WrestleMania 9. But I probably watched like a Raw before that, but I don't remember any of those.
Yeah. And on your many travels and on your wrestling show and in your covering wrestling and thing, you've met an awful lot of wrestlers. You've met like Triple H, you've met John Cena, you've met a load of them.
Roman Reigns.
Who's the nicest guy you've met out of all of them?
I honestly think like Roman Reigns, honestly, he was super cool. Like we were talking to him for ages. Sure, Jerry, we even got into the documentary on the network because of how long we were talking to him.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But yeah, no, he was cool. Like Triple H as well was pretty good.
I often think that that's a good like sign of a wrestler, of a person anyway, like especially with wrestlers, because wrestlers, they do a lot of interviews and they meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, they're constantly, you know, they might go to signings or they might go to the conventions or they're doing these interviews, and to stay nice all through that time and for not to be fake is probably, you know, is a good thing.
Velveteen Dream is the weirdest I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah. Was he in character?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's probably right.
Didn't you talk to Cody Rhodes?
Yeah,
I think that was just before he was starting up AEW, was it?
Yeah, he was also super cool, yeah. I remember when me and Jerry were talking to him, he was showing us secret clips of Arrow on his phone.
He was in that, yeah. I remember that. And
he was like, this hasn't aired yet, but I'll show it to you anyway.
Yeah. Neville was the other guy that was in there, wasn't it?
Neville was pretty good, yeah.
And what about Virgil? Have you come across Virgil on your travels?
No, just Ted only.
Only Ted, yeah.
That's right. So you saved yourself a tenner.
I think Virgil's actually banned from these things.
Is he?
Well, he scams people out of money, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Eric Bischoff was also really cool with us.
Was he?
He loved that we were Irish, and Jerry was talking to him for ages. Sure, he was on Jerry's podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Eric was on, yeah.
Yeah. And
have you ever met any wrestlers, Steve?
What's that?
Have you ever met any wrestlers?
I did. I met two of the ones that Phil was talking about there because I was with Phil when he met him.
Oh, yeah.
Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks.
And Neville. Huh?
Kenny Omega.
Oh, yeah, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. We met them that time when I kind of forced our way because they said they
was that up in Dublin?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Dublin, yeah.
I was there, but I wasn't at that when you were forcing your way in.
Yeah. No.
Well, they said they'd give us an interview, but
they promised Phil an interview after it, and I was like, lads, he promised now. So they took us back to the dressing room.
Fair play.
For the interview, which was fair play to him for all that. But yeah, there's a few good ones. Some of the lads we met in that show in Dublin were great. Who was that Dutch lad? I can't remember his name. He was like
Bjorn.
a boxer. He was another guy that was a bit like the Ultimate Warrior. His entrance went on for about 10 minutes. He was wrecked by the time he got into the ring.
Oh, yeah, he was sprinting around the place.
Yeah. But
that's one thing I will say, actually. What's the name of that company, Phil?
OTT.
They really put on a good show.
Yeah,
they do.
You know, when you have an idea, like when people think about these wrestling shows, especially in Ireland or whatever, you just think it's going to be like in some like Neptune Stadium in some gym.
Yeah.
And it's just, fellas, fake wrestlers, the knockoff wrestlers.
Yeah.
But that one was really kind of like really professionally done, wasn't it? It was like really kind of full on.
And a few of them have gone on.
OTT were in real trouble, I'd say, this time last year, and Cody Rhodes bailed them out.
Really?
Yeah, he gave them rent. I think he paid their rent for like 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, that's fair play to Cody Rhodes. But haven't a few of their wrestlers gone on to bigger things?
Yeah, Aoife Valkyrie right now is in WWE NXT. Raven Creed is one to watch when we come back because she's only 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Session Matt Martina obviously is in America in a Ring of Honor.
Oh yeah, she's gone quite. Actually, I saw because when we watched her, she was very good. Like the crowd loved her.
Yeah.
But she was, and I don't say this to sound mean. It's just in wrestling terms.
Yeah.
But she was kind of out of shape.
Yeah.
But like I saw her then in the Ring of Honor, like, and she's like built like a brick shithouse now. Like she's like muscles and.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So Phil, if you were to say it to anyone, right?
Yeah.
The last question for you now before we go, because I can see we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
About 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
If you had to say to someone the best ever wrestling match, if they had to go and just watch one.
Bret Hart and Owen.
Which one?
WrestleMania 10.
I'd agree with Phil.
Yeah.
Just in a masterclass like performance. Yeah.
Or number 2 for me, if I wasn't allowed to choose the same as Phil, I would say Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect at King of the Ring.
Yeah.
And your favorite kind of moment in wrestling? Like not a match, but
Eddie Guerrero winning the WWE title.
Well, no, but not a match. Whatever they call them, those side bits where they do their talking or what have you.
Or like promos, like.
Kind of, but like for me now, for example, it'd be like The Rock's "This Is Your Life" when Mankind went on for about 4 years.
Oh, that's a tricky one. I think it could probably be one of the old Roddy Piper pits.
Pits. Not the barber shop.
Oh, I'd have to have the barber shop with the Rockers breaking up.
Yeah. That was one of the best. One of my favorite.
Like It's Me Austin is another one that's kind of funny as well.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite. Trump, when he was pardoning everyone, memes that was going around was that he was going pardoning Shawn Michaels for the barber shop. Anyway,
we'll call it there. A minute left.
We have no time.
Yeah.
Phil, plug your podcast quick before the end. Where can we get it?
Wrestle Slam. I suppose myself and my cousin Tim are doing a review of AEW tonight on it. So Wrestle Slam on Facebook, Wrestle Slam on Twitter, and Sports Matters for all the videos and where they all go up on Jerry's Sports Matters.
And Deep Red Productions for all your video needs.
And Deep Red Productions for all your video needs.
Yeah. And this has been brought to you by LucasAid.
LucasAid 0.
LucasAid 0. Although worryingly says drinks with 0.5 gram of sugar in 100 mils. Comes out sugar free.
I don't know. That sounds dodgy to me. I drink a lot of LucasAid 0.
Yeah.
We're also sponsored by Now TV.
We're not on Now TV, but we're
not yet.
Yeah.
But hopefully with that, they might give us a few quid. We'll talk to you soon, people. All the best.
Right.
Good luck.
Cheers.
Good night.